Well, I begin by saying Allah, which is the Baha'i greeting, which means God is light, and that we all believe in. The subject, as Gary indicated, is spiritual solution to economic problems, and this topic, considering our current recession and what is happening here and around the world, is very important, very timely, and more knowledge and understanding of what it is and what our role is in it is very significant, very important. So before I begin my remarks, I would like to share with you a few more passages from the hidden words of Baha'u'llah. A few passages already was read, but I want us to focus on a few more and think about it as I read it. O son of my handmaid, be not troubled in poverty, nor confident in riches. For poverty is followed by riches, and riches are followed by poverty. Yet, to be poor in all save God is a wondrous gift. He will it not, for in the end it will make ye rich in God. So the essence of all holy writings is that the most important thing is to be rich in God. That is the only important thing, really. Riches come and go, right? Temporary. We all need to be aware of it. But those who are poor are more aware of it. And that's also what Baha'u'llah tells us over and over again. I'm going to read a few more passages from the holy writings, from the hidden words. O son of being, thou art my lamp, and my light is in thee. Get thou from it thy radiance, and seek none other than me. For I have created thee rich, and have bountifully shed my favor upon thee. To be rich in God again is the essence of our life. I guess the more we come closer to the end of this journey on this earth, the more we realize it, that it is so essential to live a life, and to live a life of service, and not to be a slave to materialism, not to be a slave to things, not to be a slave to a bigger and bigger house. This is all the slavery, right? It's all the slavery, one way or another. Another passage from Baha'u'llah, the hidden word. Say, pride not yourselves on earthly riches. Reflect upon your end, and upon the recompense for your works that hath been ordained in the book of God, the exalted, the mighty. Blessed is the rich man whom earthly possessions have been powerless to hinder from turning unto God, the Lord of all names. Verily he is accounted among the most distinguished of men before God, the gracious, the all-knowing. So Baha'u'llah praises rich men who do not forget God. And not forgetting God is to be service to those who have not. Just going and praying in churches and in mosques and Baha'i centers does not do, right? If we have, we have to give. That is the essence of it. Well, let's go to Wall Street. They have been demonstrating, right? What are they demonstrating about? What is it that they're demonstrating about? Well, I picked up the last two issues of Time magazine and Newsweek that I'm going to share with you. Part of it is, of course, major part is economics. And that economics disparity. One of the essential teachings of Baha'i faith with regard to economics is economic equity. economic equity. Not everyone can be equal. That's why communism failed, at least in the Soviet Union. All of us have different talents. Some of us work hard, going to school for 20, 25 years. And then some people are just lazy. We can't say that, everyone is equal and therefore we have to provide the same wage to everyone on the planet Earth. That's not right either. But the disparity in wealth in this country has become one of the worst on the whole planet Earth, according to given statistics. In the last 30 years, the have-nots, income, basically the 99% that they're talking about, at best has remained the same from 30 years ago until now. The richest 1%, their income has increased threefold. We call this what happened. What happened in the last 30 years? The names that they give given to them is also related to some presidents that we had that initiated this method of extreme disparity in wealth. We call it Reaganomics, Bushonomics, trickle-down economics, and what Jesse Jackson said in 1987, taking it from the needy and giving it to the greedy. What the first President Bush called when he was running against President Reagan, voodoo economics. So that voodoo economics has brought us to the point of growing. It's not this party or that party, these are the facts. These are the facts that is not subject to argument. The 1%, the 400 wealthiest, I think I put it down here, the 400 wealthiest Americans in this country, I can't say earn, they pocket an average of $1 million a day. $1 million a day, $360 million a year. How do you imagine, to fathom one can be? And one group of politicians, if anyone dares to say that they have to pay their fair share, because what happened, this disparity was caused because they have the strongest lobby, and therefore they found all kinds of loopholes so that they won't pay taxes, or their fair share of taxes. And therefore the 1% wealthiest became wealthier and wealthier by day. You see, by day they become wealthier, by just doing nothing. And of course they have all the means of hiring the most talented accountants and lawyers, so that even the share that they have to pay, they won't pay. And therefore the wealth becomes accumulated in the hands of 1%. So that 1%, on the average, have income over $1.5 million a year. We'll discuss it, but let me explain that again. The 400 wealthiest, that's not 1% of population, that's the 400 wealthiest. What's 1% of population? 3 million, right? If we have 300 million people. But the 400 wealthiest are pocketing $1 million a day or $360 million a year. The 1%, it comes an average of $1.5 million. And the remaining 99%, their average income is $54,000 a year. So that is just, in general terms. Now, the top 20%, many of us are among that top 20%. If you're making over 200,000 or 250,000 or 300,000 a year, you come to that bracket. The top 20% of population pocket or earn, many of them earn, 50% of the total income of the country. The top 20%, 50%. The lowest 20%, 5%. The lowest 20%. These are all people whose homes are foreclosed, many of them have become homeless, many of them have lost their jobs, many of them, if the employer, we're talking about the rich CEOs, many of them are pocketing, I would say, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 million dollars a year. Some of them $100 million a year. And those are also in the pocket of that 1% who manage their affairs. They, in turn, are successful by laying off people who are making $7 an hour, $8 an hour. Because the more they lay them off, the more they become efficient. That's also part of the economics, part of the capitalism. There are many good points about capitalistic system that provides entrepreneurship, provides healthy competition, and so on and so forth. But then they become more successful, better CEOs by laying off the workers, the cleaners, the people who are just doing menial tasks for $6, $7, $8 an hour. And then if they lay off 1,000 of them, 2,000 of them, then a good part of what they were making to just feed the family goes to their pocket. The system is such that if it gives it to them, it's all right. It's not. They have made money, and therefore it is part of the bottom line. Bottom line is that how much profit this company made. This is before that bonus. But then if they give a wage, that reduces the bottom line. That would say that we paid $5 million wage, we could have had $10 million of profit, now we have $5 million. But if that CEO takes all the $5 million away from these workers, then the bottom line becomes $10 million. Then the shareholders would say, you did such a good job, we'll give you 20% of it, or 30% of it, on top of that. So they have made a system that is truly voodoo economics. It's truly insane. Is the beginning, this is the beginning, as many people in 82 cities that they have been demonstrating, is the beginning of a true revolution. Until we come to a point of equity. What Baha'u'llah had said 150 years ago, what Abu reiterated when he came to this country 99 years ago. 99 years ago. He predicted. I've got some of those passages and I'll share it with you as we go through this. Now, in the process, I thought that, what is happening in Libya and Yemen and Syria and Iran is just there. I was absolutely shocked. Some of you have gone and watched some of these videos, the Wall Street demonstrations. The young people who were standing up with a placard, many of them were attacked by New York police because they had camera. They're afraid of that more than anything else. They virtually attacked many of them. This is the most horrific scenes that if you go on YouTube, you probably watch it. Unbelievable that this is happening in this country, in this so-called land of freedom. I've never said so-called, but now I'm saying it's so-called land of freedom and opportunity. This is what is happening. It's horrific. People have to stand up. Well, standing up means that you have to stand up for what is right. Through patience, through teaching, through providing the healing message of Baha'u'llah, which is renewed healing message of Jesus and Buddha and Krishna and all the rest. Because all of them, more than anything else, teach us what? Teach us compassion, equity, justice. Right? That is the essence of being human, the essence of being from God. When you lose it, you've lost it. You've lost it. And in many ways, we've lost it. In many ways, we've lost it. And last night, a few of my friends were, Dr. Tucker was in my home. And I was thinking, reflecting as to what to say this morning. And more than anything, I wanted to share with you one of the talks of the Baha. He went to a poorhouse, as you may have, I'm sure many of you have seen that beautiful talk of Bahá'í in the called Baha'i Mission House in New York. All manifestations of God, particularly Baha'u'llah, tell us about the importance of taking care of the needy among us. And this is what he said to them, the 500 poor people, homeless people. Tonight I'm very happy. For I've come here to meet my friends. I consider you my relatives, my companions. You must be thankful to God that you're poor, for Jesus Christ has said, blessed are the poor. He never said, blessed are the rich. He said too that the kingdom is for the poor, and that it is easier for a camel to enter a needle's eye than for a rich man to enter God's kingdom. Therefore you must be thankful to God that although in the world you are indigent, yet the treasures of God are within your reach. And although in the material realm you're poor, yet in the kingdom of God you're precious. Jesus himself was poor. He did not belong to the rich. He passed his time in the desert, traveling among the poor, and lived upon the herbs of the field. He had no place to lay his head, no home. He was exposed in the open to heat, cold, and frost, to inclement weather of all kinds. Yet he chose rather this than riches. If riches were considered glory, the prophet Moses would have chosen them. Jesus would have chosen them. When Jesus Christ appeared, it was the poor who first accepted him, not the rich. Therefore, you are the disciples of Jesus Christ. You are his comrades. For he outwardly was poor, not rich. Even this earth's happiness does not depend on wealth. You will find many of the wealthy exposed to dangers and troubled by difficulties. And in the last moments, upon the bed of death, there remains the regret that they must be separated from that to which their hearts were so attached. It's a beautiful lecture, talk of Bahá'í. We must all read it over and over again and really cry over it for ourselves, to purify ourselves, to find again what is our mission in life. Teaching the faith, yes. Search for truth, yes. Peace on earth, yes. But together, to be compassionate and kind and just and equitable, and to make sure that we don't hoard too much for ourselves. This is the message of God. So my friends, you're following in the footsteps of Jesus Christ. Your lives are similar to his life. Your attitude is like unto his. You resemble him more than the rich do. Therefore, we will thank God that we have been so blessed with real riches. And in conclusion, Bahá'í said, I ask you to accept Abu Bahá'í as your servant. So touching, so beautiful. Anyway, this morning I got up, I had guests last night, precious guests at my home, so I was a little behind in my preparation. So I got up this early morning and prayed, and I reflected on these things, on the plight of the masses. It's not only riches, it is also the debt, the amazing debt that this country has. It's also the laziness of many, but the plight of many who try and who go by rules, but they can't find a job. The plight of many who the bank said you can afford a house which is $200,000 or $300,000, and they gave him the loan, but then the economy crashed, rightly so, because those houses were not worth $300,000. It was a $150,000, $200 house that the realtor and the banker and the construction man was pocketing $100,000, $120,000. but they were selling it to him for $300,000. And the crash came and they could not afford it. And so they had to vacate the house. And the bank became the owner of the house. And they became homeless or in shabby apartments and all the rest. So it's a big mess. It's not only the deficit, it's not only the loan, it's not only it's first and foremost, disparity in wealth, and the fact that the have-nots don't want to give their share. And unfortunately, a good part of the Congress is in the pocket of the 1%. That's the lobbies. That is the American way. You know, if you can do it, go ahead and do it, and present yourself to the congressman, and whoever pays more or is more forceful will win. For the present time, that's the system. But that system is collapsing. We have to collapse. It cannot work like this. It cannot continue forever like this. So anyway, this morning when I woke up, I don't usually write to the president, but I was moved to write to the president. Dear President Obama, I know that you took a middle-of-the-road approach and handed out trillions of dollars to banks and other Wall Street companies to save the economy. Again, that is subject to huge debate. If he hadn't done it, we would have been in depression already. But the have-nots who had failed, most of the money went to them, over $1 trillion. The have-nots who had failed, the banks and Wall Street and Merrill Lynch and all the rest of it, they got the money, they saved themselves, at least temporarily, and they said, you know, no, we're going to fire more people, and we're not going to let, we won't go bankrupt, but now we're showing big income, so therefore we're going to give ourselves more bonuses. In this economy, all of them have become hugely profitable with millions of dollars of profit, and the guys in Wall Street and the banks are being paid multi-million-dollar bonuses. Absolutely insane. Inside of God, I think. So I'm saying to President Obama, I know that you took a middle-of-the-road approach and handed out trillions of dollars to banks and other Wall Street companies to save the economy from total disaster. But now the rest of the population, the remaining 99%, or at least 70%, who would become your supporters, are standing up and protesting against the Wall Street, banks, big corporations, and CEOs with their huge multi-million-dollar bonuses, while they crush the poor and needy and lay them off for higher and higher profits. Please stand up and rise up with them in spite of its huge costs, including the possibility of losing your re-election. I bet that the majority of Americans and the world, as well as Jesus and other manifestations of God, who taught compassion, equity, and fairness, will be with you. God bless you, Iraj Khodadoost. Of course, I got a response. And the president is so fast, you know, to computer response. Wow. Thank you for contacting the White House. I got it before I came here. President Obama is committed to creating the most open and accessible administration in history, which in many ways is right. It's just amazing, you know, they on a daily basis, there's a crew who goes through every single email, summarize them, and on a daily basis present to him. That begins with taking comments and questions from you, the American people, through our website, and so on. So now, what did Abu Baha say? Actually, 103 years ago, 1908. What did he, what book was written in 1908? Remember? Some answered questions. Some asked questions in the presence of Clifford Barney in Haifa, who asked questions. So this was one of the questions, of course, of wealth and disparity. And this is what Abu Baha says. What page is it? Page 273 to 277. I'm going to read a couple passages from it. The principal cause of these difficulties lies in the laws of present civilization. Now, was much better back then, in many ways. The country was becoming stabilized based on the historical and economic facts until 1970. From then on, it has been mushrooming into a worse and worse of a mess from an economic standpoint. The principal cause of these difficulties lies in the laws of the present civilization, for they lead to a smaller number of individuals accumulating incomparable fortunes beyond their needs, while the greater number remain destitute, stripped, and in the greater misery. This is contrary to justice, to humanity, to equity. It is the height of inequity, the opposite to what causes divine satisfaction. This contrast, this amazing inequity, is peculiar to the world of man. With other creatures, that is to say, with nearly all animals, there is a kind of justice and equality. Thus, equality exists in the shepherd's flock and in a herd of deer in the country, likewise among the birds of the prairie, and among every kind of animal. Some kind of equality prevails. With them, such a difference in the means of existence is not to be found. So they live in the utmost complete peace and joy. Animals, all animals. Then, therefore, he goes on and explains other things. Then he says, rules and laws should be established to regulate the excessive fortunes of certain private individuals and meet the needs of millions of the poor masses. This was true 99 years ago. This is more true now. More true now. Because now it has become an entrenched and dangerous system. Then rules and laws should be established to regulate the excessive fortunes of certain private individuals and meet the needs of millions of the poor masses. Thus, a certain moderation would be obtained. However, absolute equality is just as impossible. We should never go to that extreme. For absolute equality in fortunes, honors, commerce, agriculture, industry would end in disorderliness and in chaos. So that equality that communists were preaching, never practicing really, is probably equally worse. Therefore, laws and regulations should be established which would permit the workman to receive from the factory owner their wages and a share in the fourth or fifth part of the profits. That is profit sharing. Back then, 9 years ago, Baha'i proposed, mandated two things: profit sharing, and what's the other one? Progressive taxation. If you have more, you have to pay more. They said, no, you guys pay 10%, we also pay 10% or 12%, whatever it is. If they pay, because there are so many loopholes and so many brilliant lawyers and tax lawyers who tax accountants, that they can get away with paying almost nothing. But those who pay between 12 to 15, 16%. Whereas in 1970, what was some of us may remember, what was the incremental tax for the highest amount of wealth? I think it was around 70%. 70%. So from 70%, it is down to an average of 15, 16%. The highest bracket supposedly is 36%, but because the wealthiest, a lot of their income is investment, the highest tax on investment is what? Capital gain tax, 15%, right? If they pay. So now, I want to spend our time, remaining time discussing, so I'm just going to say a few highlights, and you can go to particularly the lighter guidance, and I'll give you the paragraphs if you wish, and read it. We won't have time to read it here. But this is the essence of Baha'i economics. Paragraph 1858, the role of agriculture. From the point of industrialization, we kept forgetting the farmer. So the role of agriculture is still very significant and important, by the way. Paragraph 1860, progressive taxation, advocacy, over 100 years ago. The importance of progressive taxation. Paragraph 1863, the importance of voluntary sharing Yes, progressive taxation. Yes, government should coordinate these things. But first and foremost, if our heart is not healed, if we have not become holy, godly human beings, the inequities will remain. You see houses in this city, 10 million, 15 million, $20 million house, with amazing luxury inside of it. But this is basically these big houses, and this kind of furniture is dead, and it's a dead weight. It doesn't improve the economy on a long-term basis because it stays there, right? Hundreds of years. Oh, and a lot of these rich people, a lot of them do a lot of good. There are a few examples like Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey. Who was the head of the CNN before? Ted Turner and a few others who have understood the importance of giving 20% or 25% of their wealth for good causes. But they are few in a mass of 3 or 4 million. So it's not working. But then Baha'u'llah says that ultimately when humanity, the world becomes spiritualized, the most important part is voluntary sharing. That we would not let our fellow human being go on hungry. We say, I have enough and I have to share. Paragraph 1865 discusses the importance of doing away with the extremes of wealth and poverty. Paragraph 1867, these are all from the holy writings of Baha'u'llah, and clarification of Shoghi Effendi. The importance of equity in wages. Many other countries have understood that yes, you are the CEO, you are educated, okay, but your worker also has to have a living wage. If you pay him $10 an hour, yours should be 15 or 20 times more. Let's say yours should be $150 an hour, $200 an hour. But if you make it, I don't know, what is it? What's $1 million a day? 8 divided by 8 is $125,000 an hour. If your average income is per hour is $125,000, where the worker, even if you employ him, you pay him $7, that's not equity, that's not justice, that's not right, that's not human, that's not godly, right? I mean, I don't know who needs to explain this to these guys, but somebody should, and we have to begin, we have to start. We have to begin it somewhere. We just don't have to just put up with this mess, I think. Paragraph 1869, the importance of profit sharing. The same way that you want to share profit with the CEO, share your profit with your workers as well. Paragraph 1870, the importance and the value of work. In the Baha'i faith, work in the spirit of service is worship, right? And so this is very much emphasized, that nobody should become a burden to society, saying, I don't want to work, just come and you pay me $500 a month, I'll live with it. This is also absolutely unacceptable in Baha'i faith. Let me conclude by reading a paragraph from the Universal House Justice. This is from the Promise of World Peace. The inordinate disparity between rich and poor, a source of acute suffering, keeps the world in a state of instability. Universal House Justice wrote this over 20 years ago. Virtually on the brink of war. This is predicted 20 years ago. We are here on the brink of revolution, in effect, in that sense. This amazing mess cannot continue. So they predicted that the inordinate disparity between rich and poor, a source of acute suffering, keeps the world in a state of instability, virtually on the brink of war. Few societies have dealt effectively with this situation. The solution calls for the combination and combined application of a spiritual, moral, and practical approaches. A fresh look at the problem is required, entailing consultation with experts from a wide spectrum of disciplines, devoid of economic and ideological polemics, and involving the people directly affected. These are the 99%, the ones who demonstrated, these are the people who are directly affected. They say that they have to stand up and talk to these guys who think of themselves as experts. And many of them are brainwashed experts of one group versus the other. Democrat, Republican, this guy and that guy. They are brainwashed in a particular fashion. We have to come together in a spirit of consultation, which is the essence of the Baha'i faith, in order to deal with this, and so on. I have one more thing I have to share with you, which is really the conclusion of this talk, and is very important. Ultimately then, we really didn't have time to go to the detail of it, but Baha'u'llah calls for a spiritual solution to economic problems. It's a beautiful book called Poor in All Save God. If you don't have it in the bookstore, please get it for all the friends. It's probably $1 or $2. The essence of wealth is love of God. Through reading the hidden words, we all understand that. Then it is explained in the Holy Writing, the essence of material wealth is capacity to serve. If we have wealth, and we know what this wealth is for, to do good on earth. Employing people, taking care of them, having extra and seeing somebody needy, say that enough is enough, I don't have to have millions in my bank account or in my saving account or my retirement account. I have to share part of it. This is material wealth, is capacity to serve. Because Baha'u'llah says, defines a human being as what? A human being is one who dedicates himself to the service of the humankind. That's the definition of being a human. That's the definition. So therefore, if we have it, therefore it's wonderful. We have capacity to serve. Ultimately, then, material wealth, together with spiritual wealth, love of God and therefore love of man, equals to what? What did I write?
Advancement of mankind.
Advancement of mankind. And therefore, the oneness and wholeness of mankind, this is one of the essentials of it that we can reach. Thank you for your attention. We have a few minutes for dialogue.